There are few countries that I like so well as France, the vicar commented as we walked from our car park towards the Palais de Festival, if it were not for the French. Elizabeth Inchbald summed them up rather well. The most disputatious, arrogant, unreasonable, self-satisfied set of beings on the face of the earth. A tad unfair, don't you think? Lord Crappeney ventured. I think not. A country with such fine architecture, and yet they still have their Christmas decorations up 17 days, 14 hours and, he checked the time, 10 minutes after the 12th day of Christmas. Well, they've presumably left them up for MIDEM, I suggested. Presumably? Why should I presume? The vicar smiled at me. Well, I've got fantastic memories of Cannes, I went on, ignoring his provocations. I spent 6 months here when I was 17. Sowing oats which were wild and passionate, eh? Cut in Lord Crappeney, who was walking beside the vicar with Venus and I following behind. Well, not so much oats, more boats. I earned 100 francs a day, which is more than I get paid now, for scrubbing and painting those bloody great things. I waved my hand towards the £1 million yachts that lined the wharf. It is amazing, the vicar went on. Every country and every city has its smell. Tokyo has the smell of soy sauce mingled with the smell of the drains. France is the smell of foul black tobacco, sea air and, he sniffed the air, sun-baked dog shit. Look at the stuff. It's everywhere. How can a civilised race living in a 21st century city put up with all this dog crap? He started to walk on tiptoes as if avoiding imaginary drop-ins. What amazes me is how the stuff gets on the pavement in the first place. Look around. All you see are fluffy little poodles in the arms of over-painted old ladies. Does it come out of their arses while they're being carried along, or are they put down specially so that they can defile the place? In fact, are they being carried because their owners found the pavements too dirty for them? At this point, the vicar was thankfully forced to break off from his thesis on the toilet habits of French poodles as we'd reached our final destination, the Palais de Festival, with its enormous awning proudly announcing MIDEM. Hardly a great advert for modern architecture. The vicar was still not happy. All these fine 19th century buildings on one side of the street and this modern, brutalist monstrosity on the other. It owes rather more to a concrete car park than a palace. A sign on the main door sent us to a marquee round the side. A marquee unlike any I'd seen before. A bit like an immigration section of a large US airport. You know the sort of thing. A row of maybe 30 booths and those long wiggly queues that you always follow around, even when there's no one there. I mean, what's that about? Pay attention to what happened when we got to the front. It's important. All four of us went to the same booth, behind which sat two sexy French bimbettes. The vicar asked me to use my best schoolboy French, which, in this new improved version, went roughly, Nous sommes quatre, est-ce qu'on peut tout register ensemble? Silver plates. The vicar produced a letter, not a French one, showing that he had an invite because he was a guest, because he'd be presenting an award at the opening gala. And Lord Crappeney produced an invoice showing that he paid for him and Venus. I, too, would be presenting at the award ceremony if my colleagues' ageing postures were more flexed and less egocentric. That's good, said the SFB, sexy French bimbette, although it wasn't. If you will please stand over there and look at the camera. On her lips, the word camera seemed impossibly suggestive. She motioned the vicar over to the far side of the booth in front of the other receptionist and pointed to a small stalk coming out of a computer. This is a camera. Ready? She tapped on a computer and the pass came out of a little printer on her desk with a big yellow heading saying MIDEM and his photograph underneath. The SFB showed it to him and then took it away to be laminated so that he could hang it around his neck on a ribbon. No chance. Or clip it to his shirt, a poor 1,000-to-1 shot. The next victim was Lord Crappeney. His photo was taken by the girl at the other computer, so he had to stand on the opposite side of the booth from the vicar. Do I need to draw you a diagram? Don't worry, it's not important. All you need to know is that SFB number 1, she of the premature ejaculatory accent, produced passes for the vicar and myself, while SFB number 2 photographed Lord Crappeney and Venus. As well as our passes, we were each handed an enormous black bag embossed with, yeah, you guessed it, the word MIDEM. The vicar handed his disdainfully to me, with the tips of his fingers as if the contents might dirty him. Take mine too, punk. A present for your nieces and nephews. And with that, he put his pass in his pocket and strode out of the marquee. Talk about $1 million view. The Croisette, the main street of Cannes, lined with palm trees, lay before us. Eyes to the left for the old port, with the old town on the hill beyond. Eyes to the right for the Cardin Hotel, with its overtones of Meg, I'd give her a French kiss Ryan. Straight ahead of us, the bars, all 6 or 7 of them, most of which had put up large awnings to keep out the cold. I mean, it was still, after all, only January.
Time to try some of the local poison, dear hearts, essential to maintain me in my current dilapidated state of health,
Lord Crappeney said, diving through the traffic. Man after my own heart. You will join us, won't you? Venus asked. I'm sure they do other drinks if you think it's too early for something alcoholic. I doubt you need to teach Punk about French bars, Lady Crappeney. The vicar spat the word lady out before smiling and adding more politely, I had intended to ask Punk to guide me to a good bookshop, but we will, of course, be delighted to join you while Giles does the needful. And do mind the traffic, he added as he started to cross the road. This may look like a pedestrian crossing and may be called a passage protégé, but no self-respecting French driver will ever stop for you, even if your legs are rather more shapely than mine. I'll not bore you with all the details of our first visit to the Café Méditerranée. There's enough time later to acquaint you with the particular delights of that watering hole. The vicar spent most of the time discussing breast cancer. A great friend of mine has asked me to research the validity of all the various alternative cures about which one hears, he explained to Venus.
Mayhap you have heard that cancer can be cured by dining on apricot kernels,
Lord Crappeney mentioned through his beer. And so we continued. Hardly think we need to give you all the details. Fortunately, for those of you reaching for the delete button, the weighty meat and two veg of this story is awaiting us very shortly at that evening's opening party aboard the wonderfully named yacht Toy Boy. Allow me to set the scene. When I say yacht, I certainly don't wish you to picture sails. The yachts that line the wharfs of the old port and can are all motorised gym palaces, large white creatures luring you inside with their curvaceous lines and the promise of adventure. And the boats are pretty attractive too. Get on in, said the bouncer on the gangplank. Nibbles, wine and beer on this deck. The bar is on the top deck. The vicar went first, followed by Lord and Lady Crappeney and my good self, all obligingly showing the bouncer our MIDEM passes. If that's all it takes to get a free drink, then it's a small price to pay. If he'd asked me to take down my trousers and wave around the contents of my underwear, I would have probably obliged, looking at the considerable array of goodies on display on the boat. It was while showing my pass that I first noticed a large lime-coloured post-it on the back with some writing on it. I was about to read it when the vicar passed me on his way back down the gangplank. I was still on my way up, so we met in the middle. I think not. No host to greet you, and I have already been accosted by Malvolio, who seemed rather surprised to see me. He has invited us to the launch of the Glamour Twins album on Tuesday, no doubt deducted from their advertising budget. I do not wish to ruin your evening, but this is not for me. You and the Crappenleys stay as long as you wish. When you are ready to leave, you will find me waiting in the car. And with that, he turned and left, completely distracting me from the mysterious message stuck on the back of my pass, of which, more later. That boy's not cool. He's got ears the size of deer face, broken nose and a twisted face, with a voice
Evening, friend. Bend knees, not helmet. Sergeant Crappeney here, reporting on the quality of my aim. Didn't touch the sides this morning, just a little stain on the left. Spread it everywhere, must have been that bloody curry.
I've lost his camera, I murmured into the ashtray. No response. I've gone and lost his fucking video camera, I shouted a bit louder. Still nothing. Help! I tried, my forehead still attached to the ashtray.